to join us today. So let me move straight to the agenda and call the meeting to order. And I have 2:01. Okay. And we have next order of business is the approval of two sets of minutes, our June the 10th meeting and our June 17th meeting. And I hope that everyone has had a chance to review those minutes. Does anyone have any errors or omissions or corrections that we need to make to the minutes of those two? If not, I will entertain a motion that the minutes be approved for the June the 10th, 2025 and June 17th of 2025 meetings of the commission.
I'll move.
It has been properly moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's properly moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of June the 10th, 2025 and June 17th, 2025. Question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All righty then. The minutes are approved. We will move straight on into the executive director's report, and I'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Chair. I will share my screen. Let's see. All right, looks like I'm sharing the caseload report. First up on the agenda is actually, oh, I'm sorry, I must have messed that up. Hold on.
There.
That it? Okay. First on the agenda is the mediation report. It's just a few weeks into the new fiscal year, so there really wasn't enough data to have a meaningful report. I'm going to hold off until next time, and we'll have a little more information at that point. I can tell you that the last fiscal year of our mediation program was a successful one, especially in regards to the percentage of cases that successfully mediated, which was very, very high. And when we get our annual report out, that'll be our official statement of all the information and data from the past fiscal year, so we can review at that time. But I will move on to the caseload report. And so, actually, I'm sorry. Are you seeing the caseload report at the moment?
Yes.
You are?
Yes,
Okay, great. My screen is not
Can I
helping
just
me.
interject one observation
Yes.
or one question real quick on the mediation report and its deferral to the next meeting? With respect to that, rewrite. Go ahead. I'll pull my question back later.
Okay, terrific. Yeah, so we'll cover the caseload report at this time, which gives us both a snapshot of all our cases as of yesterday afternoon, as well as a year to date, for fiscal year to date at the end report. And so as of yesterday, July 22nd, 2025, we had 385 active open cases in our caseload. That's an increase of 15 from the previous report. And we've gone over this before, and I can tell you that we have cases going back to the year of 2018 of filing, and we are actively working to get resolutions or dispositions on all the cases, particularly the older ones here. I can tell you, and I'll highlight certain things here which are notable to me. So the first would be this number here, the number of cases filed in 2025. So it's 111 as of yesterday, and that's an increase of 33 cases from the previous report. And that's pretty substantial. And I think that's a direct result of our having recently hired new investigative staff. And typically, as in the case with these staff, we did start them out in intake, meaning that they are the ones who take in complaints from the public, do an initial interview, and make sure we have jurisdiction to proceed. And so because I think directly as a result of having these new staff on board and trained, we did have a sizable increase in the number of complaints filed since the last report. So 33, again, is a pretty sizable increase. as a consequence, and I'll say that as far as the other numbers and categories, pretty consistent with what we see month after month. We do have a caseload of cases that goes to our investigators, and they investigate whatever it takes to come to some outcome. They will fully and fairly investigate the case. And so what I can show you also is it's not dramatic, but this case aging category is, I think, one of the most important things that we report on from meeting to meeting, because it gives us some basis for saying, is our caseload getting older? Is it sort of reducing? And so we have the oldest category that we follow, which is 2 years or older from date of filing, which comprises 37.7% of our current caseload, which is high, and we've been trying to get that down for many months. So what I will say is that it's a very small change, but you can see that from last report. So last report here, that's not going to help, to this report, the numbers have gone down, percentages at least, very slightly with regard to the cases 2 years or older, reduced again for cases between 18 months and 2 years. And so that is a positive sign, because, like, as I've said, we have been seeing an increase from meeting to meeting. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come. And I do think it, again, makes sense that when we have new dedicated staff doing intake, we are going to see an increase in the cases that come into our system. And thus we can, the makeup shifts a little bit there. Okay. And then I'll move down to the breakdown by
Excuse me.
type of case. Yes, Chair.
So I do want to, again, for the benefit of new commissioners and just layman's in general. So when we look at your number of cases, the number of cases we brought in 2025, we are referring this is since January and
Correct.
not the beginning of the new fiscal year.
Calendar year.
Right, calendar
2025,
year.
correct,
So
yes.
this would mean that in essence, we've increased this. So if we only had 94 cases in 2024, and we're already at 111 half of the year, that's an exceptional increase if we stay at this steady rate. And you said that it's based on the fact that we have more folks being able to do intake.
Right.
So I guess the question is centered on the fact that, are we saying that we did not service as many people last year because we didn't have people that could do intake? And I don't know if that's parallel to the number of issues that the public was experiencing. That's where I'm really trying to go.
I understand your question completely. Let me clarify, because I haven't been completely clear. I can see that. What will help is I'm going to scroll down to this next page, which gives our whole fiscal year comparison from year to year. So we're going back from fiscal year 2015, 2016, et cetera, to last fiscal year. So if you want to look at the whole fiscal year, and this is not the calendar year, this is a fiscal year. We can draw some parallels here. Take a look at, say, complaints filed, this third line here. And if you take a look at the total number of complaints filed during the fiscal year, last year it was 198, the previous was 190, okay, 200, et cetera, et cetera. So that being said, that's for the whole fiscal year, right? But if you go back, and what I'm perhaps not unclear, I was a bit unclear about, was when you take a look at this number here, the total number of cases, this is a snapshot of what we have in our caseload at a moment in time.
Gotcha.
Right.
Got
So this is a shifting, this is a shifting number. As you can see, we did have, whatever, multiple hundreds of cases filed in each of these years, but we've whittled them down through investigation over the course of time. Yeah.
I'm good.
Got it. Okay.
Just piggyback on that question. Um, so it doesn't imply that there wasn't a need or demand for legal services. It suggests that um, the office wasn't able to do intake in accordance with demand. I'm still a little
Right.
bit clear about that. So
Yeah.
it wasn't that the need wasn't there. It was just the whoever's answering the phone or responding to emails, they weren't able to process people.
I think that's part of the story. And let me, again, I'll move to that second page, which gives our big picture comparisons. The thing that really would drive numbers of complaints would be the numbers of pre-complaint questionnaires received. That is the document that a member of the public would use to fill out and send to us, give basic information about themselves, whatever entity they're dealing with, employer, housing provider, et cetera, and a basic rundown of what their situation is. And so that's getting their foot in the door. That leads to there being typically an intake investigation and an intake decision. And so part of what we've seen is that if you go back here, this is going back 10 years, right? We had 692 of these pre-complaint questionnaires, or we call them PCQs, received in fiscal year 2015. So 692. That was very high. And if you go from year to year, 678 here, 610, et cetera, 647 in fiscal year 2019, 519 in 2020. And I think we can all guess what happened in 2020, the pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
And so we saw a drastic decrease. So from 647 one year, 519, 472, and then trending back up, 496, 554, 579. So I can tell you, Commissioner Matsuoka, that it's been a combination of the need to service the public, as well as the need or the ability for us to fill positions, and have the funding to fill the positions. So it's been a sort of a delicate balance there. The pandemic did affect us in several ways. So the need from the public was affected, but also our funding sources were affected, and our ability to keep staff. So I think it's been a sort of give and take over time. What we really want to do is to be fully staffed as much as we can at all times, have people trained, and just keep things rolling. So whatever we get from the public, the better prepared we are, the better result we'll get. So I will say that the trend now of having more pre-complaint questionnaires and more people to take them on, I mean, that's exactly what we want, right? And we don't have full control over what comes in from the public. But part of what we're trying to do also is do outreach and education to perhaps increase the numbers of inquiries and PCQs that we receive. So hopefully that answers your question there.
Yeah, it just sounds complicated, and it
Oh,
sounds
well, yeah,
it goes beyond the number of staff that are available to offer services and to do intake, but there are other factors at play.
certainly. But we just always try to do the best we can
Yeah.
in getting people on board, trained, and very excited about working. Okay, so let me scroll back up. And really, we covered the percentage of age of cases. And then here's the breakdown by type of case. And so it's a very simple sort of, I don't know, division here. We have housing cases, and then we have non-housing cases. And so housing cases we're taking as a whole group. And we have presently 97 housing cases in our caseload, which is quite high, historically. And then the rest of them are either employment, which is the largest percentage always, or public accommodation cases, or access to state and state-funded services. So these are all three types in the non-housing. And then you can see that the non-housing category is broken down into response monitoring, mediation, pending assignment, and active investigation, which roughly follows the life of a complaint. So response monitoring would be when a complaint is filed and we ask and we require a response from the respondent in the case. It's a written response to the allegations. So we have to make sure we receive a response and that it is a complete response that we can move forward to investigation. So that's the response monitoring category. I was going to point out that we have 173 cases in that status, which is a significant increase from the previous report. Again, I think reflective of the influx of new intake investigators. We have 57 cases in mediation, and mediation is a process that's optional, but we highly encourage our parties to partake because they can potentially reach a resolution amongst themselves with a mediator involved, and resolve their issue early on in the process, and they're done at that point. Pending assignment is when we have a case that comes through intake, we get a full and complete response. It has to wait until an investigator is available to take on and investigate the case. So that's just the pending pool. We have 20 cases. And then the active investigation is cases assigned to an investigator and being worked on. So that investigator would interview parties and witnesses, perhaps do on-site visits, perhaps gather documents, do some research. Again, whatever it takes to come to an accurate and do a full and fair investigation and come to some sort of disposition. So that is our caseload in a nutshell. I can move on to the last category,
Could
but
you stay
any
there for a
questions?
second, please?
Of course.
If we look at, we have 2 cases from 2018. And
Yes,
so on here, it reflects that those 2 cases are active investigations.
that is correct.
And these are non-housing cases. Could you enlighten us, if you're able to, on what could take 2, goodness gracious, 7 years worth of investigation?
Yes. And I can tell you just generally, I could research these individual cases, but I couldn't give you details regardless, identifying information. But what I can tell you generally is that these are outliers. And so there are many things that could.
Neighbor Islands or something?
Oh, no, not Neighbor Island is not an issue. I mean, we investigate on any island and we don't have a problem doing that in a timely manner. It's more outliers in the sense that there's something unusual about this case, the parties, some circumstance that makes it, difficult to investigate or come to a conclusion. And so I can give you an example. We had a case that was even older, which was filed in 2017, which I think was finally removed from our reporting last report or the report before.
It
And
was.
and that was a case where we had a tremendous difficulty serving the parties and getting a proper response. And without getting to identifying detail, it was a company
True.
that was not originally based in Hawaii. And so we were dealing with, a corporate entity and, and trying to find a local, connection. But I can report that that's a case that even though it took a while for us to get going, it is actively being worked on at this moment by our enforcement staff. And so, cases do sometimes take time. Again, it could be that the parties are very obstructive and we need to go to court and compel them to comply and things of that nature. Or it could be a very, very complex case with many moving parts, many witnesses to be interviewed, and so on and so forth. So those are some examples of what could take a case a while to be investigated.
All right. I think just kind of because it's kind of glaring there for anything that is certainly pre-pandemic. If we are able to get a little more information on those, it's only 3 cases that could help us kind of ground ourselves in kind of what's really taking so long with those three oldest cases I'm looking at here from 18 and 19.
Yeah,
And I know that you guys are working aggressively to get these old cases off the docket.
right. I'm actually
If that's
seeing, I
not
mean,
unreasonable.
sure. I'm 5, if I'm not mistaken, from 2019. So that's a little bit, oh, wait, what am I looking at? Oh, yeah, there's two inactive investigation.
Two
One,
and yes.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But there are cases,
So,
amongst the
yeah, I
different
look now,
stages. Yeah,
and I
yeah.
was just looking on that investigation.
Right.
And when I look at the others, pending monitoring or in mediation, pending assignment, so I guess there's 2 and 9 as 11 that is quite old. So
Right.
to the extent that we could probably just start with 2018
Hmm.
and kind of just within reason get some understanding of the specifics of that case, those two cases, and then we kind of move on. And I also want to be mindful. Someone said they had to attend another meeting at 3, so we may adjust the agenda as necessary. I don't want to hold folks. I also want to make sure that we are kind of taking the time to inform them.
Sure. And I will, upon doing further research, report back on the 2018 cases, and very mindful of the age of these cases as well. I mean, that's of concern to everyone here. And with time in mind, I will just pass along to the last page. Again, this is fiscal year. This doesn't change until we have our annual report data out. So once that's out, we'll add a new column. We can talk about that. But the very last thing I have here is our year-to-date comparison data. And because it's only been a few weeks, really, it's a small sampling. And we go back 5 years for the beginning of whatever the fiscal year at that point is to today's date, going back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So, again, very early, we have some very, low numbers here. The thing that, again, I would reinforce is when you look at the complaints filed, even though it's not relatively that different, I mean, it is high compared to the previous years to this point in time. And that's, again, reflective of the new investigators that we have on board. So I'll leave it at that unless there's anything further, and we can move on with the agenda.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
And then I'll not in the interest of time, I'll ask, this appears to be trending out of the pandemic with an increase of cases as on your total summaries here. And again, you mentioned that this increase may be attributed to increase in staff. So I'm not so sure I'm comfortable with saying that we have increased work because we have additional staff, in contrast to increases because things are starting to rev up in the community.
Mhm.
And whether we have staff or not, I believe that the amount of staff would not be a factor as much into whether or not we have complaints coming in. I probably want to, not at this time, I probably want to get a better understanding of that assessment. Okay.
Okay.
We'll move the
Sure.
agenda, please.
Chair,
All right.
sorry, there's a question from the public in the comments.
Oh, there's a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay. And Barbara is asking, okay. Executive Director, can you respond to this? How many PCQs did we have since June for the year to date?
How many PCQs
We
since
could
June?
scroll back. Well, according to this particular sheet right here, this looks like PCQs received. If this is all from June of 2024, that looks like 37 total, right?
Well, yeah, let me field that question.
Go ahead
because
and kind of
will
break that down.
This is really just a small portion of the pre-complaint questions received.
Okay.
I what I
Oh,
can
there we
tell
go.
you is that if we look at the fiscal year comparison, right?
Mm-hmm.
So fiscal year 2024, actually, it ends right when the question begins. So from June of 2024, correct?
Oh, so
So
that's going to be a next report. We haven't assessed that. We haven't provided that out yet.
right, and probably
Right.
not next report. It'll be when our annual report is issued, and that's a
Right.
little later in the year. So
Right.
I can't give you an accurate number at this point, but I will say
Sure.
that in keeping with previous years, pre-company questionnaires, we're
We're
talking about
trending up.
in the 500s, and so I would anticipate somewhere in that range. That's
Yes.
just my best guess.
Okay. All right,
Okay.
Barbara,
Stop sharing.
we need to gather that data is still being aggregated, and then we can provide that information. Okay, so we will go ahead and
Oh.
move the agenda. Oh, I'm sorry, I see a hand up. Barbara.
Yeah, are you catching any immigration cases at all from the ICE activity and the lack of due process? Is any of that coming into your office?
Um, I would love to answer that, but we're restricted by our statute, which is Hawaii Revised Statute 3684, from giving information about any active cases. What I can tell you is that if we did receive a case that implicated one of the categories that we cover, which would be employment, housing, public accommodations, or access to state and state-funded services, and they also intersected with a protected category. And I can imagine immigration might implicate race, ancestry, national origin, then we would have jurisdiction to take on that complaint. Unfortunately, I know what you're asking. I just cannot give you that information legally.
Okay, so to put it another way, if we're aware of cases where people may have encountered facially unconstitutional ICE arrests, should we point them in your direction or elsewhere?
Um, I would say most likely elsewhere, but we would be happy to field any inquiries, talk it through, and then maybe find a good referral.
Okay, do you have a contact person in your office that we should be working with?
The main contact number is just our main switchboard number, and then that person could be directed. So I can give you that, which is 808-586-8636. And our deputy has put the number in the chat.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Okay, so we will go ahead and move the agenda then. Next, under. So are we at the chief counsel's report?
All right,
believe.
thank you, Chair. So we just have one small legislative update. Based on the bills that we had been following this past legislative session, we are following Senate Bill 116, which is now Act 259. It was signed by Governor Green, I think, earlier this month or last month. But it will be effective September 1st, 2025. The purpose of this bill, just as a reminder to everyone on what this bill was to give any person who is injured by discriminatory reporting to a law enforcement officer recourse through civil action. So this is somebody who calls the cops because of somebody's, protected basis, race, color, religion, national origin, things like that. So it impacts the Department of Law Enforcement, but the bill does require that the Department of Law Enforcement consult with the Hawaii Civil Rights Commission on guidance to the public on, their what the civil liability could be and remedies available. So I know Marcus and Heather are taking the lead on consulting with the Department of Law Enforcement on that. This bill is also interesting because this act is also interesting because it amended one of our statutes that we have jurisdiction. So HRS chapter 368-1, and it adds place of birth as a protected basis. But interestingly and notably, it doesn't amend any of our other statutes over which we have jurisdiction. So as you know, our commission has jurisdiction over employment, housing, public accommodations, and access to state and state-funded services. So this act only amends 368-1, and it doesn't amend the employment statute, housing statute, public accommodation statute. So that is kind of interesting. But I think it's something that we would just have to be aware of because it does impact us.
Thank you. Do you have any further updates for the Chief Counsel's report?
So moving on to the governor's approval of our proposed amendments, I am very happy to say that we've had movement. Governor Green signed our rules finally on July 9th, and they became effective on July 19th. So fairly recently, we posted the new rules on our website. And so, you know, we hope to do some training. We did get questions from members of the public on whether or not we would do trainings. And I do want to ask the commission as well, if that's something we would want to do during a commission meeting or separately, if that's something the commissioners are interested in.
I would say that given that we generally have a full agenda, and I will always defer to people and value their time, I would also say that this is a public benefit. So I would look for us to consider outside of our regular commissions meeting. And it would show a little bit more of a concerted commitment to the public. That would be my perspective. Any other commissioners have a perspective on that?
I agree.
Thank you.
I would
Yeah.
concur, but if there's a, let's say if there's a meeting scheduled where there is not much on the agenda, maybe that's when we
Right.
could
Yeah.
look at it.
Sorry, that didn't mean to raise my hand.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
And we will so advise.
Okay. And then a
Okay.
couple updates on the docketed cases. So last month, the commission filed its final decision in Marcus Kawatachi on behalf of the complaint filed by Junko Knight versus Gary Summer et al. So that decision has been posted to our website. Thank you for reviewing and issuing that order. An appeal can be filed based on that order within 30 days. So we're still waiting out that 30 days because that hasn't expired yet. The second case that's on the agenda is Marcus Kawatachi on behalf of the complaint filed by Ralna Sheldon versus Fiona Massa-Oy. That's going to be discussed during our executive session today. And Arsima, I understand you have a conflict, so that's good because I know you have to be out of here at 3. So that's so you won't have
Yes,
to wait
works
around.
out.
Don't worry about that. Yeah.
I have a legal aid meeting actually. So.
Oh, ironic. And then, so we'll be discussing that, the hearings examiner's findings and facts, conclusions of law and recommended order. And finally, the last case docketed with the commission right now is Kawatachi on behalf of the complaint filed by Brandy Payne and Gregory Payne versus Perry Wagner. And so that one is still in the discovery phase. The contested case hearing has been set for October 6th, and it will be a hybrid hearing via Zoom. So we'll keep you all updated on that.
Thank you. I don't see any questions. So we will move on the agenda and move into executive session, I believe.
Sorry, Chair, can we, before you get on to that, since I'm already going to be excused out of that, can we discuss, can we take something out of order and discuss next meeting so
Absolutely.
that I can jump off and you guys go to exec?
Okay, you said you wanted to discuss the next meeting?
Yeah, that's under item 7.
Okay, all right. So right now, what we are doing is we're meeting at 2 o'clock on Thursday. And the question before us is, does this time and day of the week work for us? Oh, I'm sorry, on Wednesday. So Thursdays are bad for me. I am in favor of either 2 or 3 o'clock though in the afternoon. And
I think we
so-
used to do Tuesdays because I had 3 afternoon meetings today, and I think that's going to be normal. So Wednesday afternoons are kind of bad. Didn't we used to do Tuesdays, and is Tuesday available?
Okay, any other person? I do know that I have a standing staff meeting every Monday at 3 o'clock, and that's Monday and Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Those are my standing staff meetings. So so that kind of leaves Wednesdays and Fridays, and I know how some people feel about Fridays. Are there any other thoughts, John?
Yeah, Tuesday works for me. I tend to have meetings Tuesday afternoon, so earlier the better, but depends on everyone
Okay.
else.
Tuesday is good for me as well. Thursday is really the only day, but that's no good for me. But I can be flexible with the other days. But Tuesday's the best.
Yeah, I'm pretty flexible, except that I just realized that all of my other monthly meetings are on Wednesdays.
Okay, so it looks like we will probably move to Tuesday, and that means that we'll need to move the meeting to earlier in the day. And so I would say that noon will probably give sufficient time for us to have a meeting. Okay, so
Yeah, that's okay.
then we will look for Tuesdays, and then the specific Tuesday in the month, we will come back and we will give due notice. As far as the day of the week, though, I think there's consensus on Tuesdays. Okay.
Tuesdays at noon are perfect for me.
All right.
But
Sounds good.
it depends on the length of the meeting because I have a standing meeting at 1:30. So if
Okay.
actually
That's an incentive.
have to be earlier than 12 because then I have to drive somewhere. Anyway, I'll figure it out.
Okay. So yes, that is what we're doing, and we will work to get proper notice out. Right now, we'll work with staff on Tuesdays at noon, and we'll see how that works. Okay, and if we need to adjust, we will.
Okay,
Thank you. So that takes care of
Appreciate
item
that.
number 7 for the next meeting. And anything else? Otherwise, we'll go back up to executive session.
Sorry if I missed it. So which is the next Tuesday? I'm sorry, Chair. You may have
I
covered
didn't
that.
say which Tuesday. I'm going to look at a calendar and pick it out. However, we know right now it won't be the next Tuesday. We've got to take some time for that. So just to make sure everybody can work out, but we will give proper notice.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. If not, then could we go into executive session for our meeting?
Okay, then I will be dropping off. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Okay.
Marcus, Marcus,
Yes,
you
Andy.
guys are going into the executive session too?
No, we're out of that.
You're out, okay.
Yeah, so
So
we'll
it should
just
be Ray, John, Connie, and Alfonso.
yeah, it looks like they all joined.
Yeah,
Okay,
thanks.
I'm gonna turn off my camera, but
Yeah,
be standing by.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I see community member still on. So if you would like to also wait, the commissioners will be back after executive session. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. I had a question. Should I wait for them to come back? Oh, I think
Um,
you're muted.
Yeah, Heather, you're muted on that. Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Oh, yes, please do wait for the commissioners to come back and then the rest of us will be standing by.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Are we back, Sandy? No. No.
And look like we are back together again. Okay, so we are back in our general meeting. And so I'm going to call on council to report out the commission's decision.
So based on our discussion during the executive session, the commission had a unanimous vote to adopt the decision of the hearings examiner's recommended order for dismissing the complaint, and the commissioners concurred to not issue a press release, which was part of the recommended order, but they will agree to the other two equitable reliefs. And the commission also voted to modify the findings of fact with regards to respondent statement on small family. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there anything else from your desk? If not, we will move the agenda and we will go on to general discussions. And I will defer again over for us. And let me preface this. I think with us as we turn over commissioners periodically in this organization, that it is fruitful for us and to also have the public witness it, that from time to time we would take a few moments and kind of go over who we are, what we do, and how we do, and make sure that expectations are at the front and center, and that we know because we've stood before the public and made sure that we were very clear on what we are to do and how we are to do, governing ourselves with ethics and integrity as our guides. So with that, I will yield to staff for some general discussions now on the structure, the function, and duties of the Civil Rights Commission. And so,
All right. I guess I will start because I don't think, well, I haven't really prepared anything, but I've been with the commission for 12, almost 13 years by now. So it's been a while. I've been in several different positions. On enforcement side, I was the enforcement attorney for about 8 years before my current position. So just very basics on the Civil Rights Commission. We're separated into two sections. One is the enforcement section, which is headed by the executive director, Marcus Kawatachi. They are tasked with receiving complaints of discrimination from the public. They conduct a neutral investigation into those complaints. And if at the end of the investigation, there's reasonable cause to believe that discrimination occurred based on the evidence gathered, then it's sent over to the legal section, which is the enforcement attorneys, who will first try to conciliate and settle the case with affirmative relief, which is usually some type of training for the responding party. And then, some type of compensation for the complaining individual. And sorry to back up even more, I think we've already discussed this. We have jurisdiction over complaints of discrimination in employment, housing, public accommodation, and access to state and state funded services. The one that is a little bit interesting is state and state funded services. The only category of protection is disability. But the other the other areas for employment, housing, and public accommodations, they have a lot broader range of protection than those laws found at the federal level. So that's the basic setup on enforcement side. Once the enforcement attorneys, if they are unable to settle or conciliate the case for affirmative relief and compensation to the complainant, then if they're unable to do that, then they will docket the case for a contested case hearing, which is on the adjudication side, headed by the 5-member commission. So the commission is tasked with issuing final decisions and orders. Hearings examiners are the ones that receive evidence during the contested case. They issue findings of facts, conclusions of law, and recommended order to the commissioners. A lot of our current hearings examiners, they're contract. So and they're retired judges. So they usually have some experience, in dealing with adjudication or civil rights in general. In the past, we've had issues with hearings examiners who didn't have the background necessary. And so it was difficult for the commission to make a final decision based on, a recommended order that clearly didn't understand, discrimination or the nuances that might come with it. So we do try to find qualified and experienced hearing examiners so they can produce a good record for the commission to, issue their final decisions and orders. So at the conclusion of contested cases, the commission issues a final decision and order, which is appealable to the court. It's happened a few times. The party that wants to appeal, generally speaking, is the losing side. So whoever I think is adversely affected by the commission's decision can appeal in court. So they're entitled to a jury trial. Marcus, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it's ever gotten to that point. Generally speaking, like most cases, it will settle after, being filed. And yeah, so I'm not sure if it's ever gotten to that point, at least to my knowledge. But that's the general overview of the structure of the HCRC and its functions.
Excellent. Just so that everyone kind of knew, what I wanted us to do at each of the meeting, time permitting, is that we would take a few minutes and kind of talk about our roles and responsibilities, and also probably cover one or two frequently asked questions. And so I do have a question that I'm going to again defer to either the director, deputy, or counsel to respond to. And I think that if we put ourselves in the public view, this kind of helped frame some of our questions. So the question would be, what should commissioners do if they are contacted about specific cases that are at the Civil Rights Commission? And I think that's a fair question, because people in the public, they don't necessarily think that it is right or wrong to do so. However, I wanted that question to be properly asked and responded to.
Okay, I'll take this initially. Marcus might want to jump in and add things, but generally speaking, if it's an active case in front of the commission, contacting a commissioner about an active case would be similar to ex parte communication with a judge. And if it's on the enforcement side during investigation, where no decision has been on the merits, all that information is confidential, and which is why Marcus can't specifically state what cases are older, or aged, because no decision has been even preliminary made on the merits, so any contact with someone who has an active case would be considered ex parte communication, and it's not allowed. Which is also why we're always looking to make sure we have a full commission, just in case somebody has to recuse themselves, because they might not realize that there's a recusal that has to be made. But so we are very happy that we at least have quorum for our cases being heard.
Excellent. Would you want to add anything to that, or Marcus or Heather?
I have a few comments. So very good question. And I would say also very understandable that a member of the public, particularly one who has an active case, would want to know as much as possible about that case. But that's why it's very important for us to understand the limitations of what we can provide. And the limitations placed upon the commissioners as far as commenting about active cases, that goes for our staff as well. So if anyone, even a member of the media, or someone who says that, yes, I have a case, if someone who actually has a case, yes, we can talk to them about the details of their case, but they have to prove to us that they actually are who they say they are. Anyone else, though, we are strictly forbidden from giving information about anything, even the existence of a case being filed. And so that's dictated by our state law, Hawaii Vice Statutes 368-4, and something that we take very, very seriously because the authority that we have and the ability to gather information that we have is something that is just beyond what most agencies can acquire. And so we're very mindful of that, and we want to keep all that information confidential and private.
Excellent.
I could
Heather?
add further, Chair, as well, if I may. So,
Sure.
our process is an administrative process that's really parallel to like a circuit court proceeding for, a civil trials calendar type of case. But it's created to be accessible for average folks that might not otherwise be able to get an attorney and go to circuit court. So it's really important that people can bring cases freely. And so having that privacy or confidentiality for the parties is a very different experience than cases that go to circuit court, which are open to the public immediately, right, and part of the record. So we want people to have, if they feel their rights have been violated, they can come here and submit an inquiry, and we can look into the matter and see if it's something we can take up without that being in the record. So that gives a freedom for people to explore their rights. And I think just as importantly, we take it very seriously that we protect the due process rights of people, of respondents or people that are being accused of violating civil rights. So I think that cone of confidentiality, if you will, just allows the parties to access to justice in a more user-friendly way for folks that are not represented, because the state of Hawaii finds it that important to provide that. So that's something I'm proud of. And I think having had experience in court, where everything is on the record, folks just have a very different position when they have, that privacy at stake. So that's also a benefit of our process.
And I will say, just to add on to what Heather just mentioned, so I agree, it's very important to keep the confidentiality of the cases for not only the respondents who, are defending themselves on allegations, but also the complainants who otherwise might feel chilled, or fear retaliation based on their complaint. And we are subject to the sunshine laws. Marcus previously had mentioned HRS 368-4, which is the confidentiality section. So after, once the case does get moved over to the adjudication side, once it's docketed for a contested case, then all the case pleadings and filings, they're all public and subject to the sunshine law. So at that point, when the executive director feels there's sufficient evidence to go forward on the case to prosecute it, then those filings are public and available to the public.
Thank you so much. And one final topic for us, and that's recusal by commissioners. And so I think sometimes the public may or may not be that familiar with it. And in this particular case, and I'll defer to, again, counsel and our executive director and deputy to validate this statement I'm about to make. They're just like judges, the Supreme Court judges. There are situations where we may have a particular affiliation with, and it will be necessary for us to recuse ourselves. And that is because at the end of the day, we have to ensure the integrity and objectivity of justice and the justice process. And so just because we are here does not mean that we will be able to particularly vote on some of the cases that come before us. And so I want to make sure that that's very clear to all, and just refresh the public on that. And I'll yield to counsel for any follow-up on that.
No, I agree with everything you just mentioned. Just because we have people on the commission doesn't mean they're hearing every single case. Prior to any discussion or consideration of case record, we try to do a conflicts check, like, we would for, our judge would do. And we do have administrative rules that clarify when a hearings examiner or commissioner may be disqualified from hearing a case. And so it lists out specific instances where a commissioner would have to recuse themselves. And at the beginning of any case that's heard or considered by the commission, each commissioner will go through and go through that administrative rule to make sure they don't have any conflicts. So we do try to limit that and keep everything, above board and make everyone aware of what potential conflicts could occur.
Thank you so much. Okay, if any further on that, if not, if we properly covered that topic, and there's sufficient time, then I think that we're move the agenda along and we're at announcements. And so we do want to invite the public and others out to the open house for the Civil Rights Commission, Friday, July the 24th, 3:30 in the afternoon. A little chance for you to come by and meet and greet not only the commissioners, the staff and leadership, and also get a better understanding firsthand of what it is that we do and how we can better serve the people in this community. And I will yield to the executive director if you have any follow-up on that particular invitation.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. So it is Friday, the 25th, July 25th. And like you said, we are very much looking forward to hosting the commissioners, other staff, members of the public, other members within our building and department, and the chance just to meet people and maybe renew some relationships, and for everyone to get to know what we do a little bit better. And so, yes, this Friday, 3:30 p.m. Before I don't want to miss this. We do have a member of the public present during this meeting who expressed that he had a question, and I don't know what that is and whether it's in the agenda, but I will point that out that I see Dave Fields is present. Other than that, I look forward to seeing everyone on Friday.
Okay. And so it looks as though Dave Fields put in the chat that his question was already answered.
Okay.
Okay. And thank you so very much. Is there any thing else either from staff, leadership, commissioners, or public? And I do want to thank the public for the questions and engagement. We're here for you. That's why we're here. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I think that completes the agenda. So I will entertain a motion for adjournment. Well, actually, we don't need to entertain a motion. I can just declare that we are adjourned, and our next meeting will be announced separately. So I have 3:22, and we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
See you Friday.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, commissioners.